And that was finally an onboard of an original one-lap hero driving an MX-5 at the ring.
Back to the roots, sort of. We did similar to what we did with the Ring Banana, so a base lap. Then it took 4 years, but eventually we
This time it wasn't my fault.
it was my fault. It took a little bit of time, but finally we did it. You know, like we put the tires, we put the coilovers, we put the flywheel, we put everything, the brakes even this time. Incredible. And there we have it. So it is a good time. I think it is a good performance. It's easy to get carried away in 2021 with the super lap times from stock cars, but remember that this is still small car, small
1.5.
power, no
Small
torque, not so, and small tires even. So there's only
We
so
did
much.
on purpose.
Yeah,
by the
we
way.
did on purpose, and well, I'm still a bit cold.
This is what I want to say this. I don't want to interrupt you because there is like this guy in the
This guy is in the
comments
comments,
getting
yeah.
ready and saying,
But he does interrupt me. You're right. So I don't get.
This is One Lap Heroes. I interrupt and I derail the
But this
conversation.
is
And
like
he
saying-
does the same. And it is what
But you know,
we do.
this is like saying, "Oh, I cheat because this is my instinct and I cannot do anything about it." This is how male.
How did you know? This is exactly my excuse. I say I'm really sorry.
Anyway, get to the point. What you were saying.
To the point at hand.
Yeah.
I have this feeling
Mm-hmm.
that you are not excited enough. And I watched the multiple times your original 3 years with the Mazda MX-5 ND review.
Yes.
And I understood that you didn't like the car.
Yes.
And people went a bit crazy in the comments, you know. And I want to understand, do you like the car now?
No.
So, and there you have it. That's your video for today.
No. Let me rephrase it a little bit. I like it better. The car, I like it a lot better than it was. But I think the biggest problem is the steering. Because I expected after the alignment to gain a little bit of it back
yeah.
and get a little bit more fuel. And maybe that would be the case if we go like crazy, like 4 degrees camber or something crazy. I don't know. But with what we did, we really didn't win so much. And I'm not
Steering
talking
feel.
about, and it's not,
I
but you know, like feel is a very overused word.
Do you remember that we said I drove his car and I actually felt exactly the same thing that he said, and I was hoping that the car wouldn't have enough caster, you know,
Yeah.
and by doing stiffer springs and better
Yeah.
tires and adding caster, the car would be interesting enough.
But
And
it
then
had already
on the
maximum
alignment,
caster.
exactly, the alignment rack, we actually saw that it has caster. So I don't know if it's the electric power steering. Do you think that that could be it? I
I don't know because so for sure there are limitations to electrical steering power assist in the sense that no amount of trickery will make it feel like a non-assisted steering wheel. So I would not say that they are inherently bad, but I would say that the technology gives you something and takes away something. It's a compromise.
Very good.
So
with
the electric power assist gives you a lot of benefits, especially if the technology is explored a little bit beyond the simple power assist, which is like you could have variable steering angle,
for
etc.
sure.
So this gives you something in the sense that at speed you need certain amount of steering lock, and at lower speed, so it gives you a lot more flexibility. But nevertheless, there is no physical connection between you and the tires, and
we agree that Mazda didn't nail this one.
I think Mazda
it is a problem.
I think Mazda is, so in my humble opinion, I think this is one of the worst steerings I have had the pleasure of driving in a long time.
Do you understand that there is never a possibility for us to work with Mazda ever again after this?
No,
what
because
happened?
you have to understand that my frustrations comes from a genuine position, which is, so nothing that you see here in One Lap Heroes is paid for or supported or sponsored by anyone beside us. We have selected partners like IL Motorsport, which are very helpful in trying to extract what we want from the cars that we have, but
it's never branded content.
Exactly.
It's not like give us this part and we're going to say that it's good and that's
if
that.
IL gives a part that is not good, that we don't find appropriate, we are just going to give them back, give it back to them and say, hey, we don't like this. And this is the same, like, especially so for a car that I personally paid for. I don't feel obliged to say that the car is nice just because the car has to be nice. And I don't feel any peer pressure in the sense that I don't think I have to appease anybody. And
And that's a very common problem with MX-5 owners, because sometimes, you know,
Or justify it because...
Or any type of owners, Lotus owners, BMW owners. When you are in the club, then you have to say that everything is good and drink the Kool-Aid, or you are not part of the cool kids.
Correct.
And I think we never felt like that. And we are a little bit of like a bit of outcasts from time to time.
Yeah, a little bit. And also to give you, for those of you that have not seen before, but maybe for some of you, I'm a completely new person that you have never seen before. I didn't like MX-5s to begin with, so it's like. I didn't really like MX-5s because I sort of missed the point, and I was more in line to what Chris Harris famously said, which is I don't really see the point of an MX-5 NA. It's a slow car that doesn't feel particularly nice. But of course, then I explored the reality of owning an MX-5. So let me phrase it like this: if the ND costed 10,000 euros, it would be amazing. But for a 30,000 euro car, it's difficult, and this is what I found. This is what I found fancy and interesting about the NA, which was the
amount
banana
of car you get for the money.
The banana was literally 1,000 something euros, and for that money you had a special thing in your hands. It doesn't matter how bad it was. You had a special thing that felt so nice.
For example, you don't want to know what Gabriel Piana thinks about the 991 GT3. So a car that costs almost 180,000 euro. Point in hand. I believe that one of the best features of the Mazda MX-5, especially the NA one, it is the hydraulic rack, and then it's the same rack basically, and very similar geometry. So actually, one of the highlights of the car is how good is this hydraulic rack, both in weight and both in actual feel, with the stock soft suspension and with modified versions. And I particularly like that.
So much so that even extensive upgrades such as engine swaps and whatever, they focus heavily on
keeping the steering rack,
retaining the steering geometry.
My swap, Sergio swap, all the good swaps. You have to retain that part of the MX-5
that's the character
because in the end, put that fucking engine in something else. Like if you want to have I cannot say the new unlock here. So and of course, because this is a key characteristic of the car. While Mazda did amazing things, for example, we actually rambled about the weight. We were very impressed to have a new modern car, under 1,000 kilograms. So impressive, packed with all these features, the Navi, a proper creature comforts, like a modern car, and all these cool things, in a package that's under 1,000 kilograms.
But also the car is. We have worked a little bit on the car, and the car is
very nice to work with.
The car is very nice to work. It's simple yet very well engineered. Everything has a reason for it, and because of all this. So because of my experience with the NA, because of my experience with the Lotus, because of what I even experienced beyond road cars,
painful.
It is very painful for me, and I know it is common to say, if you go out and buy something and you get screwed over, you still try to justify the buy. So you don't go to your friends and say, I've been screwed. You're gonna say yes, but and this and that. And I think that for a part of my ownership experience was a little bit like that. So I wanted to sort of convince myself that I bought something that was as good as I wanted it, but in reality, it just isn't. And my last hope was to do something to the car so that it would make it better, not better, like make it more like I wanted it. But it's really like I don't know. We didn't manage. Maybe we made the wrong choices, but I didn't manage to feel connected to the car. And this is very weird because I was driving and I didn't feel particularly confident in the car. I didn't feel particularly comfortable. And it was so strange because the speeds are not high, and it should feel nice, and it didn't really. And for sure, some of it is part of the geometry that wasn't super aggressive. Part of it is for the spring rates that maybe was not exactly on point of what we needed. But regardless of all this, it just doesn't tell me or do anything for me because the best thing of the car is still the gearbox. It's nice to go first 3, 4, 5, 6 and then go back. It's amazing, but everything else is the steering really. It's such a pain for me to say, but the steering wheel is just.
I should say something. This is the only part that we disagree with Gab because I've also driven his car. not on the track, but I've driven it on the road, and I have also driven the 2 liter. So for me, I can actually imagine an owner of a 2 liter ND doing these upgrades, getting the car under that 8-minute mark, like having like a cool lap time.
I think it's possible.
Having a pretty car, having a car that he feels nice inside, and then of course saying to his friends that it's absolutely the best car in the world because it's actually modern, you don't have to void any warranties, all the drivetrain stays stock, and you can still carry an impressive amount of speed, and it's still perfectly drivable daily.
820 for a 1.5 engine
It's very
car
good,
is fast.
exactly. And this is what I want to say. I believe that sometimes, like there are elements. For example, we are saying that the biggest problem of this car is the steering, and it doesn't need more power. He actually stresses that point in the original review, and it's something that I also believe. Like sometimes if you have a car like a modified M2, or a GT3, or even sometimes like a fast Cayman, you cannot really use that power on the road. Like daily, you absolutely cannot use it. And the 1.5 fixes that. However, sometimes you drop something unique in a flawed car, and a fantastic example of this is, for example, my turbo car. That was not properly set up, but when it had the power and it was so engaging to drive,
cover,
exactly. That sort of
That's
problem.
like the FD of Costas.
It's exactly like the FD of Costas. The FD of Costas is actually a quite bad car. I hope that he doesn't watch this, that far in the video, so he doesn't hear this. But when it's actually working, it has 500 horsepower pushing from behind, and the flames and noise and stuff. It is an experience, and unfortunately, like cooking. And not cooking with Costas. Hopefully. But like cooking, sometimes you don't know up until you put all the ingredients in.
And sometimes the result is more than
not the ingredients.
And sometimes it's less. And I think
the 1.5.
Yes, I think this is not an argument or a comment against the performance capability of the car. I am sure that if with enough time somebody will go faster than this. This was not the ultimate lap time the car can do. So I'm sure that people can throw more money at it, and people will, because the prices are coming down. Because eventually the first generations are coming out now of leasings and all this sort of stuff. So people that bought it most likely still have it and are selling it right now. So the prices are gonna come down right now, and I think
someone is gonna crack it.
Somebody is gonna find a solution. Somebody's gonna find a way to make it feel better, and or maybe somebody already has, and you will write down, and you are idiots and you don't know what you're talking about. Which
I can
very well be true.
I can even tell you what I believe the recipe is. You get a new 2-liter ND, a newer one. I mean the 184 horsepower, so you have a bit more power. This covers other things in the car, as we said. You go for the opposite. You go for a grip setup, so like wider
Massive
wheels and more tire. And the car actually has a very, very nice balance, like inherent balance is still cool. And if you can work around some limitations, like reliability limitations, like for example the gearbox is a bit of a weak point, assuming that this is not really a big problem with the later cars, then you actually have a car that for the money is very, very capable, and it can carry crazy speeds inside corners, and that in the end ends up being a fast, interesting package, but completely different from what Gab wanted when he bought a 1.5 ND and what we try to do. So I just think that you basically have to take this ingredient and just do a different recipe, and then you're going to be very happy.
Yeah, bottom line, it's not just because I didn't like it and just because we didn't like it doesn't mean that nobody can like it.
So bullet point. Number 1, is the ND a good project car candidate?
I think at the moment it's still a bit expensive, but by the end of this year or next year, it might be just in the Goldilocks zone of project cars. I would wait for the 1.5s to be 12,000, and the 2 liters might be around 15,000 by then. That, I think you cannot buy better cars for that money at that time. Now I think they're still a bit expensive.
Bullet point number 2, 1.5 or 2 liter? This is the one that we don't agree.
In my opinion, the engine is not the number one limiting factor, especially on the road. Of course, if you are going for the fastest package you can get your hands on, or if you're going for the most powerful engine you can get your hands on, naturally you cannot tune the 1.5 to a 2 liter level. So
you shouldn't.
And you even shouldn't. So by all means, go for a 2 liter if you're looking for the ultimate level of performance on the car.
For me, the cool thing is that the price difference is very small, so eventually I would save the extra money and go for the 2 liter, and I would even go as far as saying that you should actually wait and try to afford the 184 version. So for me, that's the only one that I would consider. And the reason that I would say this is because the appeal for me is I want the whole drivetrain to be stock. So I would actually get like the most powerful one because I think it actually makes the whole recipe actually work. More detail about that like earlier in the video. And I would only really consider this. And when you think it like that, at this amount of money, there are not really that many options. So especially if you need like a modern car, because of course, if you compare it with a car from the 90s at this price bracket, then you completely throw this whole conversation to shit. Number 3, should you tune your ND? So suspension, flywheel, all the modifications that we did. What do you feel about them?
By all means, absolutely, you must, especially the suspension. I don't know about the sport package. I know there is a sport suspension package available for some cars, which I don't know. I don't have experience with it. But if you have the stock shocks, throw them away as soon as you can. As soon as you get your hands on the car, get them out, and you could get.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what.
You could get the kit that we ran, or you could get a version of what we ran, or
you can go for kit W's and for all-ins, and you can go for Xitas and whatever you want. Whatever your friends tell you that is the
you
whole
cannot buy something that is worse than you have.
Just do suspension for anything other than Sunday drives, and maybe even for them, even for Sunday drives, you kind of want a different suspension. We actually both enjoyed the car with a stiffer suspension on the road. Find a spring rate that is actually sort of.
I would go for a more
treatable for you.
I think for 99%.
For me, what we had was actually perfect. I could live with it, but I would expect most people want a bit less.
I think for 99% of the viewers, they might want something more livable. Funnily enough, I wouldn't spend so much money on tires. And
interesting point as well.
Tires, grippy tires, absolutely yes. If you want the car to be faster, but if you want the car to be more fun or interesting to drive, don't spend money on tires, because what you really need to fix is the suspension, because when the car is on point with suspension and geometry, having a lower grip tire makes it enjoyable on the road, while if you go for super sticky tires, you're just gonna underdrive them the whole time.
I agree with Viana, and it is a bit funny because if you follow One Lap Heroes for a long time, then you know that our number one modification is always tires. And this has to do with if you want to take that specific platform, go to the track and drive as fast as possible. And this is the one case that we're actually talking about a road car that is still primarily his daily driver and a road car. And in that case, unfortunately, you kind of want to go the other way. So, of course, the car benefits from a better tire, but it would not be our priority. And this is not just a theory. We actually did it. We both drove the car with snow tires, so aggressive suspension and alignment and snow tires, which theoretically would be horrible. It was fantastic. The car was very fun, compliant, and it was actually much more fun than any other car I've driven with normal street tires. And this is coming from a person that has not owned a single car
that didn't have
street tires, like not a single car. I only bought one set of street tires in my life, like normal street tires. I mean, one when I was 18, and everything else after this was on semi-slicks. So imagine I'm telling you that this was fun on snow tires. So it was fun. Perfect. So I think the only thing that they want to know is that, in a way, I feel it. We didn't succeed. Is the MX-5 ND the car for you? And what are your final thoughts about the car?
No, as I said, we talked so long about it. We really didn't fix the main issue. Like we repainted the bathroom and we did the tiles, but it's still a bathroom. It didn't turn into a living room. And
very cool. You're absolutely right. And this is the point that we could actually lie to you in the sense that we took the car, we put some parts, it went faster, and
we could tell you go and buy these parts because they actually absolutely transforms the car. And but yes, as I said, we didn't really fix it for my tastes. And to sum it all up,
the final thoughts.
This is
what you want to hear.
Whenever, and this is something I mentioned also in the review, and I am so disappointed that I have to say it again after the modification, is that I am in the MX-5, I am driving it, and I always, without any doubt, every time I drive it, I think I should have bought a Lotus, or I should have a Lotus, or a Opel Speedster or something. But in reality, then I think, no, I shouldn't have it. I should have something more comfortable. This exemplifies exactly what for me is wrong with the car, is that it is neither one or the other. It's not something that is compromised, yet engaging, yet fun, yet special. And it's not something that is boring but comfortable. It's in the middle, and it's not even, we made it a little bit less comfortable, but it's still, we didn't really turn it into something fun. We didn't really turn it into something interesting that I want to get out and drive. And this is the biggest failure of all this series, maybe. But unfortunately, it is what it is, and I don't see any reason why I should lie to all of you. Yeah, bottom line, no, we didn't fix it for me, and I will probably never buy an MX-5 again if they stay like this.
Imagine their surprise when they realize with what you are replacing the ND with.
What am I replacing the ND with?
You'll have to wait.
You'll have to wait.